Let's talk about insects and fungus for a few minutes. And I'm going to let David do that because he knows a lot more about that than I do. Because when we get them, I call David.
What do you do? Spray, spray, spray. With the insects, depending on the time of the year, this time of the year, if you come in and say I got insects, I kind of go, okay. Because you can treat for them, but most of the time, leaves are going to be going dormant, or the trees, plants, the leaves are going to be falling. The insects, pretty much whatever damage they've done is already done. They're going to be going away anyway once we start getting cold. As far as fungus goes, if plants got a fungus on them and they're starting to shed leaves and the plant's going to be going dormant, I'm not going to worry about treating the plant. Going into the winter months, there's a lime sulfur spray. It is a form of fungicide. Depending on the plant, after the leaves are dropped, if you cannot clean up all the leaves out of the yard to prevent it from decomposing and possibly putting the fungus in the ground, I'm going to say use the lime sulfur spray. Treat the ground. Try and sterilize it again. And that'll cut back on any, hopefully, the fungus that the plant has from going back in through the root system and back into the plant. Now, if it is an evergreen variety, depending on what it is, I am going to suggest possibly a certain fungicide. Generally, I suggest Funginol as far as a name type. It's basically got the same chemical as Daconil. Depends on what name brand you want.
And we sell all of those here.
Going into spring, that's when your bugs and stuff are going to start coming back out. As far as treating plants for bugs, depends on what it is. Sometimes this all-in-one, I'll suggest using it systemic, using it on the plant. Other times, depending on what it is, I'm going to say just spray with a malathion is a good old-fashioned, old faithful insecticide.
What is that again?
Malathion. That is going to be one of them. The other one's going to be this Power Force or multi-insect by Bayer. Depending on what the insect is or what all's having to be treated, I'm going to suggest that one because it's going to have, whenever it dries, it becomes rainproof. It will have a residual kill.
And insects in the spring are going to be in proportion to the harshness of the winter we have.
Yeah.
So if we have a really mild winter, it doesn't kill the insects. And so in the spring, they're just, they're going to come back stronger than ever, if you will. If we have a cold winter, the insects in the spring will be less so than they would if we had a mild winter. The one you'll see the most around here is Japanese beetles. Okay, and Japanese beetles come from a grub that lives in the earth. Okay, and then they burrow up to the surface of the earth and they turn into a beetle. They're real metallic looking. And if you have roses, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They'll show up in the spring and they'll stay. And the best thing to get rid of those things, aside from the insecticides, is to buy your neighbors one of these bags that they put in their yard. Because if you get those bags for your yard, you're going to bring all your neighbors' beetles into your yard. But if you go buy bags for all your neighbors, it'll send yours to their yard. And that's really they're not going to figure it out. They'll think you're doing them a favor. So buy them a bag, you won't have the beetles. Or the systemic that we talked about, the 3-in-1.